AITA for asking my parents how long it would take them to notice if I died or would they even notice at all after they ignored 6 hours of calls about me going to the emergency room. So I'm the middle kid of 3. My older brother is 10 months older than me. My younger brother is 2 years younger. So we're 17, 16 and 14. My older and younger brother hate each other. They're always fighting and doing petty shit to each other. It drives our parents crazy and takes up a lot of attention. Or at least that's the excuse my parents use. Even before it got really bad, my parents always overlooked me more than my brothers. I was an easier kid and everything, but why does that mean it's okay to ignore me? When we were younger it was smaller stuff. Like mom or dad would forget to ask me to pick out my treat at the grocery store, something each of us did whenever we went grocery shopping with our parents, and we'd circle back around to let me pick something once everything was paid for because we were normally at the checkout before my parents could listen to me say I was forgotten or it took that long for them to realize on their own. Or another example is sometimes my parents would go up to order our food and they'd forget my order and have to go back up and place it. Happened in drive-thrus too. But then it was ignoring/forgetting to help me with homework when my brothers needed help too or if they argued. Forgetting stuff they had promised me because their focus was on my brothers. Forgetting we needed to go out and buy stuff for school and that resulted in a few emails to my teachers to let them know I was going in without needed materials. It was also leaving me behind places because once my brothers started fighting more they'd race off and not check if I was there. And it was forgetting 2 of my birthdays and remembering the next day and not even apologizing for it because I was so understanding and mature and they would celebrate like it was my actual birthday. There were times in the last 2 years where they forgot they dropped me somewhere and never came to pick me up. If I was lucky my best friend was there and his parents would drop me off at home and sometimes they'd pick me up and feed me first because they'd be aware I was waiting a while to leave. Other times I had to call 5 or 6 times before they'd answer. In the past I brought up these incidents to them and they always like we really don't mean it and we're just so overwhelmed with your brothers and we'll do better. But it feels more and more like they don't notice whether I'm around or not unless they get really tired of my brothers fighting and I end up hanging out with one of them which breaks the tension for a while. Then the other week happened. I was at my best friend's house and I had an allergic reaction to something I ate. His mom drove me to the emergency room and she was trying to call my parents. 6 hours. 6 whole hours of calls and my parents weren't at work. They were home. She tried on her phone and on mine. When her husband left work he went to my house and told my parents what was going on. It was only then and like 6 hours and 20 or 30 minutes later that they left the house and they showed up at the hospital 7 hours after I went in. I had to stay in overnight and I told my parents to go home because I was so mad and upset with them that they brought me no comfort. My best friend's mom stayed with me which wasn't really allowed but an exception was made because of how upset I was. My parents picked me up at discharge time and they were being all caring and stuff but it bothered me. Things were strained for about a week and they told me they really needed to apologize. I said yeah but it didn't mean anything and the conversation went on from there. And I brought up how I was home late by 2.5 hours and they hadn't noticed and it took my best friend's dad literally going to the house to tell them. Then my brothers were brought up and it was all just annoying. They swore that I was not the overlooked middle child and I asked them how long would it take them to notice if I died and would they even notice because it sure looked like they wouldn't. That really upset them and they asked why I'd say it and I told them I meant it. The conversation stopped then but a few days after my dad told me it felt like I went out of my way to hurt them and I'm usually more mature than that. AITA?